CO6 stands for clique of 6 people that actually watch my videos. It's called Beginners Welding. Well, because even though I've been working on cars for 30 years, I ain't welded crap, and it shows. So I'm gonna show you what I've learned in the last couple days that's gonna make you better immediately. And for a little bit of fun, some of my most serious confessions. Some of this stuff is gonna seem kind of dumb, but I'm just trying to make it fun. I am super excited to show you how I went from welding like this to welding like this and all the different stuff I've learned in the last couple of weeks. So what's up, folks? This is Clay with the Clay Way here in Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Michigan. If anyone else can do it, you can do it too. That I absolutely promise you. I've got a confession to make.
Time I put a firefly in my butthole.
Why?
To make my farts glow.
I honestly thought I was the only one. Seriously though, I don't know how to weld. But what I think is great about that is I've been on this earth 47 years, and I think I can teach you a few things that if you're a bad welder, that you may not know. And I'm sure down in the comments below, there's people that are going to be able to help you and answer your questions. I'll try the best I can, but oftentimes you're going to find that my ingeniousness is overpowered by my incompetence. Doesn't stop me at all. In this video, we're going to go through the things that I've learned in the last, I'd say, 6 weeks. I probably welded over 30 years of my career, maybe 10 times before 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. There was a ton of stuff I didn't know. These people kept it like this was some kind of super secret plan. We can't possibly tell you how to use a welder or show you how to use a welder. You just have to figure it out on your own. Well, hopefully I can alleviate some of that stuff and give you some of the ignorant stuff you didn't know about, lead you to confidence to be able to do it yourself, at least attempt it, and show you some of the stuff that I figured out that works really well for me. First thing that I know for sure, don't want to have holes in your gloves or dick beaters. Stuff will pop through there and burn the crap out of your skin and your hands. So get you some new gloves. Gloves are for these dick beaters, not this dick beater. Oh, them aren't track marks. Them are burn marks I've received. So wearing a jacket at the same time or sleeves, good idea too.
Then?
Another thing that I know for sure is that these pliers are absolutely gold. Not this specific brand though. This is really kind of junk. And the reason that these pliers are absolutely gold, especially when you're starting out, is when used properly, them up against the nozzle, they cut the tip to the perfect length. That's why they're recessed like that. But you can use them to also change your tip as well. And that's super crucial because you want to keep that tip the same distance from the material you're working with. So getting used to that distance from that material is extremely important. When you put a beveled edge on your metal that you're welding, it will penetrate better because it makes the walls shorter. And you don't want to do too much of a bezel, you know, you don't want like a 1/4 inch. You just want like a 1/16 of an inch bezel on there.
I'm done.
It's bananas how prepping metal with the wire brush is going to make your welds more consistent. Along with hitting your surfaces, make sure that your ground is connected to the metal that you're going to weld. Even take the brush and clean the end of these things off.
And then...
Really starting to piss me off, lady.
This is the wire feeder. Your wire is fed through this little contraption here. When you push your trigger, it makes this wheel turn. If your wire's ever going, there's a reason for that. It's either your setting or this wheel is slipping. We're gonna take this off. This wheel here on the right is the one that I've had in my welder for a number of years. And then this wheel here on the left obviously has grooves in it, so it grabs it a lot better. Problem is, if you have that too tight, that wheel is going to grab onto that wire considerably. You're going to see grooves in the wire, and when your tip plugs up, it's going to start unspooling that wire from inside here, and trust me, that's no freaking fun. So if you over tighten this thing, son, it's going to come completely undone and definitely be no freaking fun. Especially when you're a bad welder just like me, these tips are going to plug up constantly. Once you get better at welding and you understand some of the things I'm talking about in this video, this is going to be a lot less frequent and you're going to use a lot fewer tips. So if we want to remove the tip, we can see it has like a square part on there. We just take our pliers and unscrew it counterclockwise and we'll remove the tip. And it quite simply screws down inside there. Now I will tell you that this tip has lasted about oh, 5 or 10 times longer than my tips ever have before I learned what I'm going to show you in this video. And because ignorance is often bliss, tip cleaners and clean these things out, it just don't work. At least it didn't for me anyway. So I'd recommend just getting a new box of tips. I'm super cheap and I try everything on the cheap.
I had a beer with the old biker man at the end of the street, and he let me touch his old lady's titty.
Now, one of my least favorite parts of this video is going to be this part right here, where I talk to you about how I went from making really crappy welds to something that's kind of crappy, but passable. One thing that I'm always worried about is penetration. Most definitely, but we need to stay on task. If I have penetration, babies. I make cute babies. I'm proud of them. They're good kids. And I have good pieces of metal that will stick together. So everything's all right. There's a couple ways that I did this. And there's going to be people down in the description that are going to tell me about how I should be doing it and everything else. But it does come down to feel. Now, what I was doing was I was making sure my head is at a 45 degree. That basically means that it's coming in like this. I also have my head tilted up in the corner. And I'm not certain if I'm supposed to do it this way, but I drag my nozzle across the corner edge there as I weld. And the two methods that I use, and the one that I think is my favorite, is I constantly rhythmically do this as I pull it backwards. Consistency and rhythm are a part of this, and that's just something that you have to teach yourself. I'm not great at it yet, obviously. Repeat in your head, am a robot, you'll get it. That works really well, but then another thing that I do, and this works super well, is I take my arm and I do this as I work it backwards rhythmically. And that's why you don't want to stop. If you keep going through this and pulling evenly, rhythmically working it, you're going to end up with welds similar to what I've done, or at least better than what you've done in the past. You have to tell yourself, no matter what it is you think you can or cannot do, if anyone else can do it, you can do it too. Consider yourself being paid for learning a new skill, because you won't have to pay somebody else to do it for you. That is the reason that all of the MIG welder guns that you see have this 45 degree angle on them. And the reason that they're shaped this way is so you can make a circular motion or a rocking motion. I'm pretty sure the more accepted method is the circular motion, like the C's. But I've been testing out the rocking method, so give it a try. Doesn't hurt.
And then I touched myself to Drew Carey on The Price is Right.
Now, most of the time, you're like a hobby welder. I'm technically a hobby welder, even though I have to make these brackets that I invented. I need to start welding better, so I need to start informing myself really quickly. Most of the time, you're going to use a gasless welding wire. You're not going to have the argon carbon 75-25 mix, so Lee Friend told me that. Hey, so I'm still learning on it, to be able to use a big portion of this welder, which limits your abilities with a small welder like mine. Like, see, mine's shaded in. Technically, they're recommending that I don't use the carbon argon gas mixture for this welder because it's not going to be able to weld the 12 gauge that I use.
And then I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna put my foot in your ass if you say and then again.
The other thing that you need to know when you're switching densities of wire, say you're switching from 0.25 steel wire, solid steel wire, to a 0.30 or a 0.035 wire, these little wheels need to be flipped around. Here on our feeder, we can notice that the outside edge has a groove, and like earlier, the inside edge has a groove as well that's a different thickness. When you switch wire densities, you also need to switch tip densities, your wheel around, and if you're using a unshielded steel wire, you're going to need to switch polarities on there to be able to make that work.
Again!
You know how men hate reading maps? But I recommend you go to the owner's manual and read that sucker. If I would have got one, I would have read it and probably knew this 8 or 9 years ago when I bought it.
Are you stupid or something?
Now you're probably like, Clay, it goes pop, 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 pop. all the time, and it's jumping all around all over the place. Well, I'm gonna show you. How to take care of that and what I did, because it did it to me too.
And then?
I shaved the dog and glued the hair to my nutsack so I looked like a grown man.
Now let's talk about settings. The one thing that changed my life literally within a matter of moments. And this is gonna seem silly. This whole video seems silly.
I went to the petting zoo and I let the goat lick my penis.
Okay, that's enough. Stop, please.
I was with you on the firefly thing, but I can't follow you on that one. This sticker owned this machine for 7 years, 8 years, never once paid any attention to this sticker with the exception of this part right here, which explains where you set your wheel at depending on the type of metal you're using. And something that a good dude that's a great contributor to the channel, Lee Friend, taught me today, which is something that I did not know. There's a plus and there's a negative. And when you're using flux cord, which is what I've been using until about this moment when Lee started explaining to me why I should be changing that, I'm not gonna throw that out, is these two wires right here, and every one of these is gonna have it. You switch these wires around. Now, it's actually right here, I believe, and I need an owner's manual. You're supposed to take this one and put it on there, or something like that. Don't reference this video for changing positive and negative polarity, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I just learned about it today, people. Just know that if you're using gas, and this is MIG, and that would be gas, you need to switch that polarity. Mine's already set up for gasless, but so reference other people's videos or your owner's manual for that. True story, I can't make this shit up. Swear to God, editing this video, sticker tells you where to set the little wires on there. Although I can't stress enough how important it is to look in the owner's manual, because I don't know if it's got capacitors in it, it stores energy. So make sure you reference that before you start messing with wires and getting yourself all burned up, blaming it on Clayboy.
I'm as stupid as stupid does.
But the one thing that changed me using this gasless, using everything, was this graph right here. At the top, it says 24 gauge, 22 gauge, blah, 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 all the way down to 12 gauge, which is what I typically use. Set it on the D3 setting. Changed my life instantly. Bam! Better welding immediately. So let's take a look at this D3 setting. On our machine, we have a D and we have a 3. Pretty much all there is to it. I mean, there really isn't much to it. Set it for the letters say. There you go. Now you're welding 16 or 18 gauge.
Emotional, damn it.
So you're probably like, how do I know what thickness or gauge metal that I'm actually working with? Well, I'm going to put in some links to a thickness gauge and a set of micrometer down in the description below that you can get from Amazon. Make it easy and for you to be all ready to go. Hopefully you dug my video and I taught you something that you didn't already know. Appreciate you folks. And if you would consider subscribing, clicking the notification, sharing my videos, give me them sweet old thumbs up. If you've got a question for me, you can hit me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook Messenger. I help everyone I possibly can. I can't help you with the old baby mama drama, but I may be able to help you fix that whip. Remember, don't be the next to them, be the first of you. And if anyone else can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. God bless, folks. Have the best of days.